the Soviet winter, February 1959, 9 young hikers set out on an expedition that would become one of the most haunting mysteries of the 20th century. They were students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk, experienced mountaineers led by the capable and respected Igor Dyatlov. Their goal was to reach Otorten, a remote mountain whose name in the local Mansi language ominously meant, "Don't go there." What awaited them in the frozen wilderness was a story so strange, so chilling, that decades later it would still defy all logic. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all in their early 20s, united by their passion for adventure and endurance. They were used to harsh conditions, but this journey was meant to be something special, a challenge that would qualify them for the highest level of hiking certification in the Soviet Union. They packed carefully: skis, tents, cameras, journals, and enough food for weeks. They were not thrill seekers, but disciplined, prepared, and confident. Before leaving, they joked, took pictures, and wrote diary entries filled with optimism. Each of them had a unique personality: Dyatlov, the determined leader; Zina Kolmogorova, cheerful and strong; Yuri Doroshenko, brave and impulsive; Lyudmila Dubinina, passionate and outspoken; Rustem Slobodin, thoughtful and quiet; and others, each bringing spirit and strength. Only one member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill early in the journey and had to turn back. His illness saved his life. The remaining 9 trekked deep into the Ural Mountains, their journey recorded in photos that captured smiles and laughter amid the snow. On February 1st, they began their ascent toward Kholat Syakhl, the Mountain of the Dead, as named by the Mansi people. The weather worsened, the wind howled, and snow blinded their path. They lost their bearings and decided to camp on an open slope, rather than descend into the forest below. It was a choice that would mark the beginning of the end. What happened next has become one of history's greatest enigmas. For days, there was silence. When they failed to send their expected telegram, a search party was organized. On February 26th, rescuers found the group's tent, collapsed, half buried in snow. It had been cut open from the inside. Their boots, coats, and gear were still neatly arranged, as if the hikers had fled in a panic. Barefoot or wearing only socks, they had run into the freezing night at -30°C. Rescuers followed the tracks leading down toward the forest. At the edge of the trees, they found the first 2 bodies, Doroshenko and Krivonishenko, lying by a small fire. Their hands were burned, as though they'd tried to grasp at glowing embers for warmth. They wore only underwear. Nearby, branches were broken high above the ground, suggesting they had climbed the trees, perhaps searching for something or someone in the darkness. A little farther uphill, the searchers found 3 more bodies: Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. Their poses told of desperation, frozen mid-crawl, as if struggling to return to the tent. Dyatlov's hands were clenched tightly around the snow. Kolmogorova's face was turned toward the direction of the camp. Slobodin had a fractured skull, but no external wounds. It seemed they had died of cold, but something about it felt wrong. Their expressions were twisted, almost as if frozen in fear. Weeks passed before the remaining 4 bodies were discovered, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine. These were Dubinina, Kolevatov, Thibaut Brignol, and Zolotaryov. Their injuries shocked investigators. Thibaut Brignol's skull was crushed. Dubinina and Zolotaryov had broken ribs and internal trauma similar to a car crash. Dubinina's tongue was missing. There were no signs of struggle, no animal tracks, and no other footprints besides their own. The snow around them glowed faintly under ultraviolet light, as if some strange reaction had occurred. Investigators were baffled. Autopsies revealed high levels of radiation on some of the victims' clothes. Military officials quietly took over parts of the investigation, classifying certain findings. The hikers' diaries offered no clues,
Just normal entries about laughter, meals, and songs, right up until the final day. Something had driven them from their tent in terror, half-dressed and disoriented, into a deadly blizzard. But what? Rumors spread quickly. Some said it was an avalanche. Others claimed the group was attacked by locals or secret military tests. Some whispered about UFOs, strange lights in the sky, or an invisible force that drove them mad. The Mansi people who lived nearby were questioned, but no evidence linked them to the tragedy. The government closed the case with a vague conclusion. The hikers died due to a compelling natural force. That phrase would haunt the case forever. The tragedy became a forbidden topic in Soviet times. Files were sealed, witnesses silenced. But in the shadows of secrecy, fascination grew. Those who had seen the photos, smiling faces before the storm, the shredded tent, the twisted bodies in the snow, couldn't forget them. The Dyatlov Pass incident became not just a mystery, but a legend. Something out there in the Urals had terrified 9 strong, capable people into fleeing their only shelter in the dead of night. Something powerful enough to kill them all, without leaving a trace of what it truly was. The investigation began immediately, but it was as though the mountains themselves resisted the truth. The first rescue teams were students and volunteers from the same institute as the victims. They trudged through the snow in despair, haunted by the thought that their friends might still be alive. When they found the tent, one student reportedly whispered, "Something scared them out of their minds." The cut from the inside was clean, deliberate, not the act of someone lost, but someone desperate. Yet, no tracks of attackers were ever found. When officials arrived, they sealed off the area. Soldiers, police, and forensic experts combed through the snow, but every discovery deepened the mystery. The bodies showed different stages of decomposition and freezing, suggesting they died at different times. Some had strange orange-tinted skin and white hair, as if exposed to radiation or extreme cold burns. Cameras recovered from the site revealed eerie photos, shots of the hikers smiling, then suddenly dark, blurry images of the night. The final photo, snapped just before the tragedy, showed glowing orbs in the sky. Locals reported seeing strange lights over Kolatsiakl that night, blue spheres drifting silently, pulsing through the clouds. Some witnesses were military personnel from a nearby base. The Soviet government immediately dismissed the accounts, calling them weather phenomena, but the files mentioning these lights later vanished. Some rescuers quietly claimed they felt watched while searching the area, hearing faint metallic noises echoing through the wind. Igor Dyatlov's tent layout was analyzed repeatedly. His camera tripod was still standing, aimed toward the horizon, as if ready to capture something. The stove inside the tent was unlit, food half prepared. Footprints in the snow told a chilling story. 9 pairs of bare or lightly covered feet, walking calmly at first, then staggering. No sign of a chase, no panic, just silent, resigned movement into the dark. It was as if they were compelled to leave. The autopsies gave no peace. Dr. Boris Vozrojdeny, who led them, described the injuries as beyond explanation. Thibaut Brignol's skull fracture was so severe, it should have been instantly fatal, yet there was no sign of external trauma. Dubinina's chest injuries resembled those from a massive explosion, but her clothes were intact. Her missing tongue and eyes fueled endless speculation. Radiation traces on her jacket matched military-grade isotopes. When questioned, officials denied any nearby nuclear tests. Rumors of secret weapons began to surface. The Ural region was home to several military installations, including one that tested parachute mines, devices that exploded in the air, sending powerful shockwaves across the terrain. Some experts believed an explosion's concussive force could explain the internal injuries and the panic that drove the hikers out. But others countered that no burn marks or blast craters were found. Still, the theory persisted. Perhaps they had accidentally wandered into a restricted zone. Meanwhile, Yuri Yudin, the only survivor who turned back early, was haunted for life. He attended the funerals, looking upon his friends' bodies one last time.
He said their faces were full of terror, something beyond human comprehension. For years, he searched for answers, writing letters to officials, visiting the pass again and again. Until his death in 2013, he maintained that the government knew more than it ever admitted. By the spring of 1959, Soviet authorities closed the case abruptly. The files were stamped classified. The official conclusion stated, "The cause of death was the spontaneous action of a compelling natural force." It satisfied no one. Families were told not to ask questions. Reporters were warned to stay silent. The Ural Polytechnic Institute quietly held a memorial, but no public ceremony followed. The pass itself was renamed Dyatlov Pass, in quiet remembrance of the leader who led them there and never returned. Over the next decades, whispers continued. In the 1960s, hikers who visited the site reported seeing strange lights and hearing deep humming sounds from the valley. In the 1970s, declassified documents revealed small traces of radiation in the area, though officials claimed it was naturally occurring. Others noted that military maps of the region had been altered. What was being hidden? Why? One investigator, Lev Ivanov, who led the original case, later confessed in the 1990s that he had been pressured to close it. He admitted that he saw evidence suggesting fireballs or heat rays from the sky, but was told to remove those references from his report. He hinted that what happened at Dyatlov Pass was not of earthly origin. His statement reignited the mystery, sparking waves of speculation that have never ceased. In the years that followed, independent researchers and journalists reopened the mystery. Each new theory seemed as convincing as it was impossible. Some claimed the hikers were victims of a secret missile test gone wrong. Others said they were subjects of a mind control experiment, exposed to infrasound, a low-frequency vibration capable of inducing panic and disorientation. Scientists confirmed that infrasound could indeed trigger irrational fear, but no device or source was ever found in the Urals. Still others turned to nature. Could an avalanche have swept over the tent, scaring the hikers into running for their lives? For decades, this was dismissed. The slope was too shallow, the snow patterns inconsistent. But in 2021, new simulations suggested that a rare slab avalanche might fit the data. Even so, it couldn't explain the radiation, the glowing lights, or the strange internal injuries. The mountain held its secrets tightly. And then there were those who believed something supernatural had awakened that night. Something ancient. The Mansi legends spoke of the Menk, a powerful spirit of the mountains who punished intruders. Some hikers in later years reported seeing huge footprints in the snow near the pass. The photos showed imprints larger than any human foot, deep and spaced far apart. Skeptics called them hoaxes, believers called them proof. The more the world searched for answers, the deeper the mystery grew. Decades passed, technology advanced, yet nothing definitive emerged. Every explanation, scientific, military, or paranormal, left pieces that didn't fit. It was as if the event itself defied understanding, a frozen riddle carved into the ice of the Urals. By the 1980s, the Dyatlov Pass incident had become a forbidden legend whispered among mountaineers and historians. Unofficial expeditions began to visit the site, some driven by curiosity, others by obsession. What they found was unsettling. Despite decades passing, many reported that the area felt different, unnaturally silent, almost charged with an invisible presence. Compass needles spun erratically. Radio equipment malfunctioned. One group claimed they found pieces of metal buried under the snow, fragments that didn't match any known equipment from the hikers' gear. They handed them to local authorities, who never returned them. The families of the victims were never satisfied with the government's explanation. They demanded the release of the classified files, but every request was met with denial or silence. Only decades later, after the fall of the Soviet Union, were some documents partially declassified. The released pages were incomplete, entire sections blacked out. Still, they contained chilling notes.
mentions of bright spheres seen by nearby residents on the night of February 1st, and references to military activity in the area. The documents reignited interest worldwide. In 1993, a television crew filmed a documentary at Dyatlov Pass. During production, several crew members report nightmares, feelings of nausea, and disorientation near the site. Their compasses failed, and strange clicks echoed through their radio transmitters. Some of their footage, later released, captured what appeared to be flashes of light over the horizon. The phenomenon was never explained. Skeptics said it was static interference. Others said it was something more. In 2008, a private investigator named Anatoly Stepanov reopened the case using newly available forensic techniques. He re-examined photos from the hikers' cameras and discovered faint, circular light reflections on multiple frames, consistent with a luminous object moving across the sky. He also obtained chemical tests from preserved clothing samples, which confirmed elevated radiation on certain fabrics. When he tried to publish his findings, his report was mysteriously pulled offline. A week later, he claimed his hard drives had been wiped remotely. He refused to speak of it again. Then, in 2013, researchers using satellite imagery noticed something strange. The snow patterns and depressions around the site seemed inconsistent with an avalanche. The contours hinted at localized pressure waves, similar to those caused by sonic booms or low-frequency explosions. Could the hikers have been victims of an unknown atmospheric event? Something powerful enough to crush bones without external injury? The idea seemed impossible, yet it fit too well to ignore. Meanwhile, cultural fascination exploded. Books, films, and documentaries portrayed the Dyatlov tragedy in every imaginable light. Alien abductions, secret weapons, even interdimensional rifts. Each adaptation drew more attention to the real events, but none brought closure. Scientists and skeptics argued over data, while believers found new meaning in the unanswered questions. What united them all was the undeniable truth. Something extraordinary happened that night. In 2019, 60 years after the tragedy, the Russian government reopened the investigation. Many hoped for revelation, but the new inquiry offered little more than repetition. Officials suggested that an avalanche and panic were the cause. Yet even the lead investigator, Andrei Kuryakov, admitted that it couldn't explain everything. We still cannot account for certain details, he confessed in a press conference. Those details included the missing tongue, the radiation, and the orange-tinted skin. When journalists pressed further, the briefing abruptly ended. One overlooked detail emerged from the hikers' diaries, an unfinished sentence written on their final day. It read, "We now know that snowmen exist." At first, it was assumed to be a joke among friends, but when combined with the legends of the Mansi Menk, some began to wonder. Could they have encountered a creature? Tracks discovered years later by later hikers near the pass reignited speculation. Some prints were wide, human-like, but with enormous spacing. Could that explain their terror? Or was it simply fear of something unseen, something that preyed on the mind rather than the body? As decades turned into generations, the Dyatlov Pass became a symbol of humanity's limits, our inability to comprehend the unknown. Each attempt to solve it only deepened the questions. Why did strong, intelligent people flee their only shelter half naked in sub-zero temperatures? Why were some crushed, as if by a force greater than any avalanche? Why the radiation? Why the missing tongue? Why the eerie calm of the footprints leading into the void? Some theorists began connecting the Dyatlov case to broader patterns. Reports of mysterious lights in the sky were noted across Russia that same winter. Similar tragedies had occurred. Small groups of hikers found dead in inexplicable ways, though none as public as Dyatlov's team. Could there have been a widespread experiment, a test gone wrong? Others whispered of natural phenomena yet unknown to science. Microwave bursts, magnetic storms, or plasma discharges interacting with the snow. The mountain itself, Kholat Syakhl, became a kind of shrine, Adventurers still visit, some leaving flowers, others taking samples of snow or soil. The site is quiet now, eerily so, but those who go say the silence feels heavy, like the air remembers. Some claim to hear faint whispers carried by the wind, like voices calling names long lost. Maybe it's imagination, maybe it's something else. The Dyatlov Pass remains frozen in time, not just as a tragedy, but as a mirror of humanity's endless curiosity and fear of the unknown. Scientists still model scenarios, military historians still dig for records, and storytellers still search for meaning.
But perhaps the real truth lies buried with them, under meters of snow and secrecy. To this day, when the night is clear over the Ural Mountains, locals say you can still see faint orbs drifting over the peaks, glowing blue against the ice. Some say it's just the moonlight reflecting off the snow. Others say it's the last light of 9 souls who never found their way home. In the years that followed, the Dyatlov Pass incident became one of the Soviet Union's most puzzling and haunting unsolved mysteries. Officially, the investigation concluded that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. But what did that mean? The phrase was vague, unsatisfactory, and sparked decades of speculation. One of the most popular theories is that an avalanche struck the tent. Supporters of this idea argue that the hikers' decision to flee barefoot in the cold makes sense if they thought a sudden avalanche was bearing down on them. However, no solid evidence of an avalanche was ever found. The slope was too gentle, and rescuers noted that the snow on top of the tent was only a thin layer. Modern researchers who revisited the site in the 2010s found that a small, delayed slab avalanche could be possible, but it still fails to explain all the bizarre injuries and radiation.
Another theory involves infrasound low-frequency sound waves created by the wind passing over the nearby mountain, Kolat-Syakhl. Some scientists proposed that infrasound could have caused panic and disorientation, making the hikers believe they were in danger when they weren't. This panic theory could explain why they left the tent in a hurry, but it doesn't account for the violent internal injuries or the missing body parts. There's also the theory of military involvement. In the late 1950s, the Ural Mountains were used for secret Soviet weapons testing, including parachute mines and radioactive experiments.
Some suggest the hikers accidentally stumbled into a testing zone and were killed by an explosion or toxic exposure. The presence of radiation on some of the clothes adds fuel to this theory. Locals even reported strange glowing orbs in the sky around the same time, possibly flares, missiles, or something else entirely. Then comes the KGB theory that one or more of the hikers were undercover agents, and the group was ambushed during a covert exchange. However, this idea has little concrete evidence and seems more like Cold War paranoia than reality. Of course, no story about the Dyatlov Pass is complete without mentioning the supernatural.
Some have speculated about yetis, aliens, or even paranormal forces linked to the indigenous Mansi legends. The Mansi word Kolat-Syakhl means mountain of the dead, and some believe the mountain's name was a warning. Yet, the Mansi people themselves dismiss these claims. They say the hikers were simply unlucky, not cursed. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation. Once again, they concluded it was likely caused by a small avalanche combined with poor visibility and hypothermia. But most experts and enthusiasts remain unconvinced. The official explanations never seem to cover all the details: the torn tent, the radiation, the missing eyes, the orange skin tones, or the frantic behavior. Today, the Dyatlov Pass remains frozen in mystery. Tourists visit the site each year, leaving flowers at a memorial stone engraved with the names of the 9 hikers. The winds still howl across the pass, whispering the names of Igor, Zina, Lyuda, and the others who perished that night. And as the snow covers their final campsite once again, one question endures: what really happened on that mountain? Was it nature, human error, or something that defies explanation? No matter how many theories emerge, one truth remains: the Dyatlov group's courage and spirit of adventure endure,
as a haunting reminder of humanity's quest to understand the unknown, even when the answers lie buried beneath the ice.